Every file on this channel is about someone who invented something and then fought to own it: a wiper, a laser, a circuit. The fight is the story. This file is the opposite. In 1989, a software engineer at a physics lab in Switzerland wrote a quiet internal proposal for sharing documents between computers. Within a year he had built the whole thing. The first browser, the first server, the rules that still run the page you are looking at right now. It was, by any commercial measure, one of the most valuable inventions of the century. And in 1993 his employer signed a single half-page document that gave it away: no patent, no royalty, no license fee, forever. This is the case file on the invention nobody was allowed to own, because the inventor made sure of it. Tim Berners-Lee's proposal at CERN, the European Particle Physics Laboratory, was titled blandly Information Management, a Proposal. His manager's note on it survives, but exciting. By the end of 1990, the vague part was gone. Berners-Lee had built three things that together are the web: a way to address any document anywhere, the URL, a way to write and link those documents, HTML, and a way for machines to request them, HTTP. Here is what matters for this file: each of those was in principle claimable. You can patent a data transmission protocol. You can patent a method of linking and retrieving network documents. Companies have patented far less. CERN was a research institution sitting on a foundational technology, and the conventional move, the move almost every party in this series made, was to lock it down and charge for access. The claim was there to be filed. And it was not a small claim. The web was not a clever feature on an existing product, it was a new layer underneath everything that would come after. Whoever owned the protocol for addressing and retrieving documents would, in effect, own a toll booth on every page that anyone would ever load. That is the kind of position companies spend decades and fortunes trying to manufacture. CERN was handed it for free by its own staff. What makes this case singular is that the claim was deliberately never made. The conflict here is not in a courtroom. It is a decision, and it was sharpened by a cautionary tale unfolding in real time. In February 1993, the University of Minnesota, home of a rival system called Gopher, which organized the early internet as Tidy Menace, announced it would charge licensing fees for commercial use. The reaction was immediate and brutal. Developers and companies, suddenly unsure what using Gopher would cost them, simply backed away. A technology that had been winning began to die, not because it was worse, but because it now had a price tag and a gatekeeper. Berners-Lee watched this happen. He had already been talking with CERN about releasing the web under an open license. After Minnesota, he changed the ask. Not an open license with conditions, no conditions at all. No restrictions, no rights retained, nothing for a lawyer to enforce or a company to fear. His public reasoning was precise, and it is the thesis of this entire file. Had the technology been proprietary and in my total control, he said, it would probably not have taken off. You can't propose that something be a universal space and at the same time keep control of it. A universal space cannot have an owner. The moment it has an owner, everyone else starts building somewhere else. He had just watched it happen to Gopher. And notice what kind of argument that is. It is not generosity and it is not naivety about money. It is a cold read of how standards win. A protocol only becomes universal if no single party can hold it hostage, because the instant one party can, every other party treats it as a risk. The fence that protects an ordinary invention is poison to a universal one. The thing that would have made Berners-Lee rich would have made the web small. There was no judge. The ruling in this file is the document itself. On April 30, 1993, two CERN directors, Walter Hoogland and Helmut Weber, signed a statement releasing the World Wide Web software into the public domain. The operative sentence reads, CERN relinquishes all intellectual property rights to this code, both source and binary form, and permission is granted for anyone to use, duplicate, modify, and redistribute it. Read that again. Relinquishes all intellectual property rights. Anyone. Use, duplicate, modify, redistribute. That is not a license. A license keeps an owner in the picture. This erased the owner. From that date, no person and no institution could charge you for the right to put a page on the web or to build a browser to read one. CERN refined it the following year. On November 15, 1994, it moved newer versions to an open license that kept CERN's copyright but stayed free to use. But the foundational act, the one that mattered, was the 1993 surrender of the claim. The most valuable invention in the building, signed away in half a page. So who won and who lost? On the surface, the inventor and his employer lost everything you normally measure. There is no settlement figure in this file because there was no settlement. There is no patent number because there was no patent. Berners-Lee did not become the richest man of his generation, and CERN, a lab that runs on public physics funding, collected not 1 franc in web royalties. By the logic of every other case we have opened, that is a catastrophe. But run the comparison the way Berners-Lee ran it. Gopher had an owner and a price, and it vanished. The web had neither, and it became the default nervous system of the planet. The channel you are watching this on, the upload tools that put it here, the very HTML page rendering these words, all of it sits on a foundation that was given away on purpose in 1993. Charging for that foundation would have produced a fortune for one party, and a smaller, fractured, competing, standards world for everyone else. Giving it away produced no fortune and a universal one. That was the trade. Berners-Lee took it on purpose, with his eyes open, and said so out loud. Here is the lesson this file leaves on the table, and it cuts against every other case in the series. A patent is a fence. Most of the inventors we cover spent their lives defending a fence, and the fence was the only thing standing between them and nothing. Berners-Lee looked at the most valuable fence anyone had ever been handed, and decided the invention was worth more with no fence at all. He was almost certainly right. The web's value came from the fact that nobody owned it. The hard part is that this only works once, and only for a thing that has to be universal to work. You cannot give away a wiper and expect Ford to thank you. The web was a different kind of object, and the rarest decision in this whole archive is the one where giving it away was the smartest claim of all. Next file's an inventor who also gave his work to the public, and then spent the rest of his life watching other people get rich from it, and wondering whether generosity was ever the point.